What do Steve Jobs, Arianna Huffington, Alex Hormozi, and other successful entrepreneurs have in common? They know how to tell captivating stories. But hey, not just any stories. There are 3 stories that they use the most. In this video, you'll uncover what these 3 stories are, how to find them, and what they look like in real life. Let's go. First story, origin story. I've always dreamed about optimizing the supply chain. My whole life, I was very passionate about data centers. This is what you hear most entrepreneurs say when pitching themselves or their products. But do these statements really show their passion? Probably not, right? Anyone can make these statements. The better way is to share an origin story that explains why you started your business. Let me give you an example, okay? This sample comes from a company you definitely know. You've probably tried their product before. This is Gary Erickson, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time. Now, on one day in 1990, he was out on this 175-mile bike ride that would change his life forever. Now, as he reached the top of Mount Hamilton, he took a break to recharge a little bit. He opened his bag and he pulled out a bunch of energy bars he had brought along. Now, within a few minutes, he had already eaten 5 of them. But as he looked at the 6th energy bar, he thought, no freaking way that I eat that one as well. I'd rather starve than have another one of those. Now, back then, the energy bars, they weren't like the ones that we're used to. They were hard, sticky, feeling like this rock in the stomach. Plus, they tasted like crap back then. Now, as he was sitting there, he was thinking, is there a way how I could turn these tasteless rocks into something actually yummy, maybe even healthy? Well, the next day he called his mom and he started working on a formula in her kitchen. 6 months of trial and error later, they had found the perfect recipe. Lots of whole oats, real fruits, and no added sugar. That's when Cliff Bar was born. Well, and today, as you know, Cliff Bar is one of the most recognized energy bars in this entire world. So, how can you find these stories? Every great origin story has that one pivotal moment where the founder realizes something. It's this one moment where the founder stands there with a jaw drop thinking, oh man, this is wrong. I gotta fix this. How can it be that no other company does this? I need to look into this. Now, it's this one specific moment that sparked that idea to start the business. Now, what's your moment? Once you have that moment, you can then craft a story around that moment. So, what was your life before that moment? What was that big realization? And how did your life change after that moment? That will be your origin story. Now, the origin story is powerful, but there's one story that is even more important. Second story, value story. We put the customer first. We have a high level of integrity. Now, that is a blank, meaningless statement. Anyone can say that. But even though it is absolutely meaningless, that's what most entrepreneurs say when they try to stand out. The better way is to share a value story. A value story that shows what you stand for and what is so unique about working with you. Let's look at an example. This example comes from Bob McDonald, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble. He shared that story with his customers and employees to show what he stands for and what really matters to him. In 1971, Bob McDonald was fresh out of school when he decided to join the US Military Academy in West Point. Pretty early into his time at West Point, he learned something that would stick with him for the rest of his life. And one day he was standing outside in formation, looking super neat. Shoes polished, trousers pressed, shirt perfectly tied in. But then something completely unexpected happened. One of his classmates rushed by, stepped into a puddle, and splashed mud all over his shoes and trousers. Immediately, Bob started to panic. Shoot, how can I clean this before a supervisor comes? The supervisor will be here in any second. Before he could even act, the supervisor stood right in front of him and said, McDonald, why is there mud on your shoes and pants? In that millisecond, Bob went through all the scenarios how he could respond. He saw 4 responses. Yes, sir, would just restate the obvious. So that doesn't seem like an appropriate answer. No, sir, that wouldn't work because that's clearly true. They'd probably kick him out just for lying. I don't know, sir. Well, that would just make him look stupid. And that's when he realized that there was only one way how he could respond. And he said, no excuse, sir. Even though it wasn't his fault, he realized that the best way to respond is to not make excuses, to take responsibility for whatever happens. So, how can you find these value stories? First, think about what makes it unique to work with you. This unique claim could be, I am here for my customer 24/7, or I care about the long-term success of my partners. And once you know that claim, you then want to give some evidence to back up that claim. That evidence can be any specific moment in the past where you lived that claim. Any moment where you went above and beyond to help someone, or where you tackled that problem in a unique way, or maybe where you acted in that exemplary way. You can then use that claim and craft a story around that claim. Now, your origin story and your value story, they're crucial, but there's one last story that will help you grow your business. Third story, customer story. Let me share a fascinating experiment that shows why customer stories are so effective. In a study in China, researchers asked restaurant managers to do one tiny modification to the menu. They were asked to put a little asterisk on certain items of that menu. Now, they didn't change anything else, but what they found was absolutely mind-blowing. The items with the asterisks on it got purchased 13 to 20% more frequently. Now, what did the asterisk represent? It indicated the most popular item on the menu. People bought it up to 20% more just because they thought that other people liked it. Now, how is that experiment relevant for you? Your buyer is much more likely to buy your product or service if you can give them solid social proof. The most effective way to give social proof is to share a customer story. That is a story of how you helped another customer overcome a certain problem. But let me give you an example. Here's a story that I share once in a while in my sales conversations. In April 2021, I hopped on a coaching call with Ezra from Canada. And on that call, I was greeted by this bundle of energy. Super extroverted, very charismatic woman. Immediately I thought, like, how am I supposed to help her? She's like incredible. She should be coaching me. But a couple of minutes in, I asked her to share a story. The moment I asked her to share a story, her entire energy just changed. This big bundle of energy just shrank into this insecure pile of misery. She looked down, she started to bite her lip. She let out this big, After she told a story, I asked her, Ezra, what was going on? You had this incredible energy. Where did it go? She said, well, Philipp, I don't know. I'm scared that people would make fun of my English, that I'm not articulate enough. It turned out that she struggled a lot when she moved from Iraq to Canada when she was 12 years old. For years, she felt that people were making fun of her English, that she was not articulate enough. When I saw this, I knew that there was no point in working on structure or on elements. We had to work on her beliefs. So the next hour, we looked into the things that she had been telling herself, where they came from, and how she could reframe them. In that 1 hour, we essentially rewrote her story. At the end of the session, I asked Ezra to share a story a second time. And when she finished that story, I looked at her in awe and I said, wow, Ezra, this was an incredible story. What a transformation. To which she just said, Philipp, thank you. I knew that this had been holding me back for years, but now I know that this is not part of my identity anymore. Thank you. So, how can you find these stories? The easiest way is to go through your list of customers and identify the ones that were very happy working with you. Then ask yourself, in what situation were they before meeting you? What problems did they have? How did you help them overcome that problem? And how were their lives transformed after? Those are the 3 crucial stories that will help you grow your business. But now that you know what types of stories to tell, you may also want to learn how to tell them in the most engaging way. For that, you may want to check out my book, The Storytelling Method, or you may want to check out this next video in which I share my favorite storytelling techniques to spice up your stories. Enjoy.